A law requiring voters to show identification at the polls went before the state's highest court today. The Wisconsin Supreme Court listened to arguments for more than 3 hours. Fox 11's Andrew LaCombe has balanced coverage tonight from Madison.
Attorneys on both sides of Wisconsin's voter ID law face questions from Wisconsin's Supreme Court Tuesday. Justice Pat Rogan-Sack told the state's attorney she's concerned some people have to pay $20 for a birth certificate, which they need to get an ID.
It's still a payment to the state to be able to vote. That bothers me. Can you address that?
Since the voter ID law, when it was in place or was going to be in place, there were some places in Wisconsin that offered free birth certificates.
It was only in effect for one election before it was halted by a court order. The law was enacted in 2011. It was in place for the primary election in February 2012, but it was blocked soon after, and it hasn't been in place since. The court heard 2 cases, both challenging the requirement. The 2 groups behind the lawsuits oppose the law for different reasons. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People believes the law creates an undue burden on people to get an ID and pay for copies of supporting documents like birth certificates. The state says the law would prevent voter fraud, and voter ID cards are available for free if voters have the supporting documents. The League of Women Voters argues the law violates the state constitution. Justice Patrick Crooks asked the league's attorney why checking a voter's ID is against the law.
What's wrong with that? That's not what the law is, and that's what's wrong with it.
The attorney says the law only allows the state to check certain kinds of IDs, which creates a group of people who can't vote. That, he says, violates the state's constitution. The state disagrees.
To say that someone is turned away and denied their present right to vote by this law is not true.
The court is expected to rule on the cases by the end of June. In Madison, Andrew LaCombe, Fox 11 News.
Now, 2 other challenges to the voter ID law are still pending in federal court in Milwaukee. Those lawsuits allege that the law violates the U.S. Constitution. A ruling on those cases could be announced any day. Now, the voter ID law would have to survive all 4 challenges to go back into effect.